Good morning. I'm Dr. Burnside in the Anatomy and Physiology Laboratory with my buddy here, the skeleton. And this is what's called the articulated skeleton. It's articulated because the bones are touching each other. They're in the positions that they would be in the body. Okay. And so this is basically going to be about the bones of the appendicular skeleton. Appendicular means appendages, and that basically means the upper extremity or appendage is the arm, and the lower, you can't see it in the camera right now, but we'll look at it closer. The lower appendage, the lower extremity is the leg. Also the girdles associated. The pectoral girdle right up here and over here is associated with the upper appendage, with the arm, and down here this is the pelvic girdle. So the pectoral girdle is with the arms, and the pelvic girdle is with the legs. Okay, so what we want to do in this video is first of all look at the pectoral girdle and then look at the bones in the arm. We'll take a closer look at the individual bones and their features in another video. Okay, and then after we look at the pectoral girdle and the arms, then we'll look at the pelvic girdle and the legs. Okay, and we'll need a different camera angle for that, but I think I can move him in a little bit closer so we could get a better look at the pectoral girdle. Pectoral girdle has basically two bones. This is the clavicle right here. Don't want my hand to get, that's the clavicle, also called the what? The collarbone. And if we look behind the clavicle, we will see a different kind of shaped bone, a bigger bone, the scapula. The scapula and the clavicle come together on both sides. Here's the scapula, the clavicle over here, the collarbone, and the scapula back there, back behind it. So we have a right and left scapula and a right and left pectoral girdle. Okay. Then what's really neat is over here we look at the bones of the arm. This bone right here is called the humerus, Humerus. Here's the head of the humerus, and it fits into a feature on the scapula, the glenoid fossa. We'll be looking at that a little bit more closely in another video, okay, where we look at the bones up close. But here is and that's an articulation. That's a acromial joint or shoulder joint. Then we come down here, the humerus is in the upper arm, and then as we come down here, let's see if I can get it in position here for the camera. Then we have two bones that we have the radius. The radius, we'll look at that bone closer, and then the ulna. Then the ulna. And then these bones go into the carpal bones. These are the wrist bones. Okay, and then we come into the metacarpals. The bones of the hands are called the metacarpals, and then the bones of the fingers are called the phalanges. See, here's a proximal phalange because it's closest to the body. Then here's the middle phalange, and then here's the distal phalange. So that's the appendicular skeleton of the what? The pectoral girdle, the clavicle, and behind it the scapula. And then the bone arms are the humerus, the what? The radius and the ulna. They come down to the wrist bones are the carpal bones, and the carpal bones then lead to the metacarpal bones. They're the bones in the hand. And then finally the phalanges, which you have a proximal phalange. I was pointing to a metacarpal, trying to manage the camera on the computer and so forth. But here is I'm just an old man, but I do know a bit of anatomy and physiology. Here is the proximal phalange, the middle phalange, and the distal phalange. Okay, and so there you have the pectoral girdle and the bones of the upper appendage. Now what we'll try to do, I'm working off of a laptop camera, so I'll try to angle this down a little bit so now that you can see the pectoral girdle. I mean, not the pectoral girdle. The lower one is called the pelvic girdle, okay? And this big structure here is, and we'll look at it closer in a minute or two. This is called the pelvic girdle, the os coxa. It's the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis. The coxal bone is made up of 3 parts, and we'll see that in another video. When we look at, right now we're just trying to learn the overlay of the appendicular skeleton. This huge bone, okay, this huge bone in your thigh region, that is called the femur. We'll look at that in great detail. That is a very large bone. And then down here, we see this bone right here. This bone is the patella, okay? And then this femur articulates with 2 bones down here in the leg, and those bones are the tibia, the big bone, that's your shin bone, okay? And then your fibula, which is a lateral stabilizing bone. The big one is the tibia, and the smaller one is the fibula, okay? And then we finally come down to where we're going to look at the foot. You have ankle bones. These are called the tarsal bones, okay? And then, let me get that out of the way a little bit. Let's see. Oh, that's the end of the desk. I can't get that out of the way, okay? And I didn't get spatially impaired when I got old. I've always been spatially impaired, so, but I do the best I can. That's strange for an anatomist to be spatially impaired. But here are the tarsal bones. The interesting tarsal bone is this big one in the back, and we'll look at that closer in another video. That's the calcaneus bone, the heel bone, okay? And then the bones in the foot, these are all tarsal bones here. Bones in the foot are the metatarsals, and then when we come down to the bones in the toes, they are the phalanges, which there's again the proximal phalange, the one that's nearest, the middle phalange, and then the distal phalange. Okay. So let's review the pelvic girdle and the lower appendage. Here's the pelvic girdle right here. Okay, it's large. Oh, the Orientals call it the dantian. It's the source of your body strength, comes out of your dantian. I used to play baseball, and this is where the power comes from your legs transferred through this. You don't get power when you bat a ball from your arms. It comes out of your legs through your pelvic girdle. If you look at all the great hitters that were the power hitters, they had a great pelvic girdle, a great dantian, and they knew how to transfer the energy out of their legs into the swing of the bat. Okay, and we'll look at that closer. Then we have a when we go into the lower appendage, we've got what's this big bone called the femur, and then your kneecap is called your patella. I hope you can see that okay on the screen. And then as you come down here, the big bone is what? The tibia. The smaller, a lot of times athletes break their fibula. It's a stabilizing bone, but not a strong bone. It's very likely to snap under pressure. And then we come down to the ankle bones. We'll look at the foot closer in another video. And these are called the tarsal bones. Then the bones in your foot are called the metatarsals. And then you have the phalanges, the proximal phalange, the middle phalange, and the distal phalange. So this video, let me roll him back to where he belongs. He is a he. We'll talk about that in a future video, how you can tell whether it's a male or a female from the video. But here's the articulated skeleton, and that was to tell you about the appendicular skeleton. He's a good friend of mine, and now he wants to wave goodbye. We hope this helps you with the articulated view of the appendicular skeleton, the girdles and their associated appendages. Thank you for watching. I gotta come in here to the computer so I can hit F